All right, you bastards, buckle up for a deep dive into one hell of a story.
Oh, this is going to be good.
We're talking about Sir Mark Thatcher, Maggie Thatcher's son, and let me tell you,
The Iron Lady's boy, eh?
this ain't your typical politician's kid went rogue bullshit.
More like a politician's kid went batshit crazy, from what I've heard.
We're talking about a dude who seemingly made it his life's mission to piss off the entire world.
He certainly lived a life.
Colorful. That's one way to put it.
Full of controversy, shall we say.
We're talking desert disappearances, shady business deals that would make a mob boss blush.
And a freaking coup attempt in Africa.
This guy makes those trust fund brats look like saints.
Let's just say he wasn't afraid to push the boundaries.
Okay, let's cut the crap and start from the beginning.
Spoiled rich kid, right?
Born with a silver spoon up his ass, twin of Carol Thatcher.
Oh, right.
Went to fancy pants schools like Harrow.
All 9 yards.
But even with all those advantages,
You'd think.
the dude couldn't pass his accountancy exams to save his life. Flunked them multiple times, the sources say.
So, not exactly a financial whiz.
More like a financial fuck-up.
Well, some people just aren't cut out for the boring stuff.
Practical pursuits like getting lost in the Sahara Desert.
Right, wow.
Because that's exactly what happened in 1982.
Oh, yeah, I remember this.
Mark decides to participate in the Dakar Rally.
That's that insane off-road race, right?
Vanishes for 6 goddamn days, causing a global media shitstorm and a massive military search.
Can you imagine the stress?
What does our boy Mark have to say about it? I did absolutely no preparation. Nothing. Blames everyone else, of course.
Sounds about right.
What a prig.
Some might say he had a certain naive charm.
Naive, eh? More like arrogance.
Oh, he was Maggie's son, after all.
Dude thought he could just waltz into the Sahara with zero prep and come out on top.
A bit of a god complex, perhaps.
But that's just a taste of what's to come.
Oh, there's more.
Let's talk about his business ventures. The guy's entire career reeks of using his mom's power to line his own pockets.
Shady dealings, you say?
Take the cementation deal in Oman, for instance.
Fill me in.
British company scores a big contract while Maggie's busy pushing British goods in the region.
Interesting timing.
You telling me that's coincidence?
Well, let's just say it raises some eyebrows.
Suspicious is an understatement.
We're talking possible conflicts of interest here.
And let's not forget about the Al-Yanama arms deal. Billions of dollars flowing between the UK and Saudi Arabia, with Mark potentially pocketing millions in commissions.
Arms deals, always a recipe for disaster.
These arms deals are shady as hell, right?
Oh,
He
absolutely.
must have some insights into how these things work.
Governments, corporations, intermediaries.
Sounds like a breeding ground for scumbags like Thatcher.
It's a complex world full of players with their own agendas.
And speaking of scumbags, let's not forget about the house in Belgravia, bought for him by Wafik Saeed, a key figure in the Al-Yanama deal.
That's right, the Saudi businessman.
What a surprise.
A generous friend, some might say.
Complexity my ass. It's blatant corruption.
Well, the lines can get blurred in these high-stakes games.
So with all this heat on him, Marky Boy decides to become a tax exile.
Running from the tax man.
Bounces around from Texas to Switzerland, gets kicked out of Switzerland,
Even the Swiss have their limits.
and finally lands in South Africa.
Seeking greener pastures, or should I say, lower taxes.
Apparently even the Swiss have standards.
Well, they do value their reputation.
Let's be real, he was running from the consequences of his actions.
Avoiding accountability, a classic move.
But guess what? Even in South Africa, the dude couldn't keep his nose clean.
Always getting into trouble.
Gets involved in loan sharking to cops and military personnel.
Loan sharking. Seriously.
And there are all these whispers about shady fuel contracts in other African countries.
Always pushing the boundaries.
Is this guy incapable of not being a shady asshole?
Well, some people just can't resist the allure of a quick buck, especially if they think they can get away with it.
He's a goddamn predator, plain and simple.
Preying on the vulnerable. A truly despicable act.
But wait, it gets better. We haven't even gotten to the main event, the Equatorial Guinea coup attempt.
Oh, here we go.
This is where shit really hits the fan, folks. We're talking about a full-blown attempt to overthrow the president of a country, orchestrated by a bunch of mercenaries.
This is getting juicy.
And guess who's allegedly bankrolling the whole thing?
I think I know where this is going.
You guessed it. Mark fucking Thatcher.
Classic Mark.
What What the fuck was he thinking?
Power, money, who knows? Maybe he just wanted to see the world burn.
Well, the fallout from that Equatorial Guinea fiasco was pretty spectacular.
You're telling me this wasn't just some drunken bar fight?
Oh, no.
We're talking about an international incident.
With serious consequences.
People went to jail.
Lives were on the line.
So what happened? Did Mark Thatcher get what he deserved?
Well, he did get a 4-year suspended sentence and a hefty fine in South Africa.
A slap on the wrist.
And let's not forget, the U.S. banning him.
Good.
Seems like the Yanks weren't too keen on having a coup-plotting asshat on their soil. Serves him right. But what about the bigger picture? What kind of impact did this whole clusterfuck have on Equatorial Guinea?
You're absolutely right.
I mean, these coups rarely end well for the countries involved.
Coups often destabilize countries and lead to all sorts of problems.
Like what?
Human rights abuses, corruption, economic turmoil.
It's a mess.
And in the case of Equatorial Guinea, the failed coup attempt basically gave the dictator, Teodoro Obiang, an excuse to tighten his grip on power.
So he used it to justify cracking down even more.
On dissent, silencing opposition, and basically turning the country into his personal fiefdom.
So not only did the coup fail, but it made things even worse for the people of Equatorial Guinea.
It's a tragic irony.
Talk about unintended consequences.
The coup plotters probably thought they were doing some good.
Liberating the country from a tyrant.
But in reality, they just made things worse.
And as for Mark Thatcher,
Well, his involvement in the coup pretty much destroyed his reputation.
I can't say I'm surprised.
He became an international pariah, a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked privilege and reckless ambition.
It's almost poetic justice, isn't it?
Yeah.
The son of the Iron Lady brought down by his own hubris and greed.
What a fucking loser.
But hold on, I remember reading something about Mark Thatcher being involved in some shady shit even before the coup attempt.
Oh, yeah.
Something about loan sharking in South Africa.
Ah, yes. Mark Thatcher found himself entangled in a web of controversy in South Africa.
Entangled is one way to put it.
There were allegations of him being involved in loan sharking, specifically targeting police officers and military personnel.
Imagine that, the Prime Minister's son, preying on those sworn to protect and serve.
What a scumbag.
Seriously, what kind of a fucked up mind comes up with that idea? It's like he was actively trying to piss off everyone on the planet.
And it wasn't just loan sharking, right?
That's what I heard.
There were rumors about him being involved in some shady fuel deals in other African countries.
Shady how?
These deals were often shrouded in secrecy,
What a surprise.
raising concerns about corruption and exploitation.
So basically, he was using his family name and connections to make a quick buck in some of the most vulnerable countries in the world.
You could say that.
Classy move, Mark. You know, it makes you wonder what the hell Margaret Thatcher thought about all this.
I'm sure she loved it.
Did she ever try to rein him in?
That's a question that has fascinated many.
Well, she was known for being tough.
Margaret Thatcher was known for her strong personality and unwavering principles.
So,
It's hard to imagine her condoning her son's alleged activities.
you think?
But the extent to which she was aware of or attempted to influence his business dealings remains a subject of speculation.
I bet she was pissed off. I mean, can you imagine the Queen having to deal with this shit?
What specifically?
Her son running around Africa, plotting coups and loan sharking to cops.
It's enough to give you a royal aneurysm.
Well, I'm sure it didn't help their relationship.
The impact of Mark Thatcher's actions on his family, particularly his mother, is difficult to assess definitively.
It couldn't have been good.
However, it's safe to say that his controversies likely caused a considerable amount of stress and embarrassment.
Embarrassment is putting it mildly. The guy was a walking PR disaster. But let's not forget, he wasn't just screwing over people in Africa.
Right.
He was also screwing over his own country by dodging taxes like a champ.
That tax exile thing, right.
Remember when he became a tax exile? What a slap in the face to the British people.
His decision to relocate to various countries with favorable tax laws did attract criticism,
What kind?
with some accusing him of hypocrisy and a lack of patriotism.
Hypocrisy. That's putting it mildly. The guy was a walking contradiction.
How so?
He benefited from his mother's policies, then turned around and did everything he could to avoid paying his fair share.
Well, tax avoidance and optimization strategies are often employed by wealthy individuals seeking to minimize their tax liabilities.
That's one way to spin it.
Whether these strategies are ethical or not is a matter of debate.
Let's cut the crap. It's unethical as hell. These rich assholes use all sorts of loopholes and offshore accounts to avoid paying taxes, while the rest of us have to foot the bill.
That's the system.
It's bullshit. But, hey, At least karma caught up with Mark Thatcher in the end, right?
Yeah.
His life pretty much fell apart after the coup attempt.
That's certainly one way to look at it.
What happened?
He faced legal troubles, social ostracism, and his reputation was tarnished beyond repair.
Ouch.
He became a recluse, moving from one country to another, seemingly unable to escape the shadow of his past.
Sounds like he got what he deserved.
Yeah.
But you know what? I still have so many questions about this guy.
Like what?
Like, what was his relationship with his mother really like? And was he really as stupid as he seemed? Or was he just a master manipulator who got caught?
Those are good questions.
We need to dig deeper into this. When we come back, we'll try to unpack the psychology of Mark Thatcher and explore the lasting legacy of his chaotic life. All right, we're back, and my brain is still fried trying to comprehend the sheer audacity of Mark Thatcher.
The guy was a walking disaster.
Seriously, this guy operated on a whole other level of fucked upness.
A whole other level.
But before we wrap up this deep dive into the life and times of this extraordinary asshat,
I still can't believe some of the shit he pulled.
I want to try to understand what made him tick.
Good luck with that.
Was he a product of his upbringing? A victim of circumstance? Or just a plain old greedy bastard?
It's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah, nature versus nurture, the eternal debate. But you gotta admit, growing up as the son of Maggie Thatcher, the Iron Lady herself,
Oh, absolutely.
must have messed with your head. Talk about pressure.
Can you imagine trying to forge your own identity when your mother is one of the most powerful and polarizing figures in the world?
It must have been insane.
I can see how that kind of environment could breed resentment, insecurity, and a desperate need to prove yourself.
Maybe he was trying to outdo his mom in the pissing people off department.
They certainly gave it a good shot.
But let's be real. The guy was a walking, talking embodiment of privilege. He had every advantage in life, yet he still managed to fuck it all up.
Why? That's the question.
Why?
Well, privilege can be a double-edged sword.
How so?
On one hand, it gives you access to opportunities, connections, and a safety net that most people can only dream of.
Sure.
But on the other hand, it can also insulate you from the consequences of your actions, create a sense of entitlement, and ultimately lead to poor judgment and a lack of empathy.
So you're saying that being born with a silver spoon up your ass can actually make you a bigger asshole?
It's not quite that simple, but there's definitely a correlation between privilege and a tendency to engage in risky or even unethical behavior.
Especially when you've never had to face real consequences for your actions.
Exactly. It's easy to develop a distorted view of the world.
And a belief that the rules don't apply to you.
Precisely.
Case in point, Mark Thatcher, from getting lost in the Sahara to allegedly bankrolling a coup, the dude seemed to live his life with a fuck you attitude towards everyone and everything.
He did have a certain swagger.
But here's the thing that bugs me. Was he really as dumb as he seemed?
Or was he just a master manipulator who played the system to his advantage?
What do you think?
It's a question that continues to baffle those who've studied him.
So, no easy answers.
There's no doubt that he was cunning and opportunistic.
That's for sure.
He knew how to use his family name and connections to open doors and make deals. But at the same time, he also displayed a remarkable lack of foresight.
You're telling me?
And a tendency to make impulsive decisions that ultimately backfired spectacularly.
Maybe he was just a gambler who loved the thrill of the game.
Even if the stakes were ridiculously high.
Or maybe he was just plain stupid. Who knows?
It's a mystery for the ages.
But one thing's for sure. Mark Thatcher's story is a cautionary tale about the corrosive effects of power, privilege, and unchecked ambition.
Indeed, it's a story that reminds us that wealth and status don't guarantee happiness or success.
No, they don't.
And that even the most powerful individuals can be brought down by their own hubris and greed.
Damn, that's deep. All right, folks, that's our deep dive into the wild world of Sir Mark Thatcher.
What a ride.
We've laughed, we've cried, we've questioned the sanity of the human race.
I know I have.
We hope you enjoyed this roller coaster ride through scandal, intrigue, and the utter absurdity of it all.
It's been a pleasure.
Remember, the world is full of fascinating characters, some good, some bad, some just plain batshit crazy.
That's the beauty of it.
Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep your bullshit detectors on high alert.
Wise words.
And if you ever find yourself in the Sahara Desert, for the love of God, pack a map and some goddamn water.
Good advice.
Peace out.